Okay, we are on. Welcome. Thursday night. Let's see. Let me check the date. Oh, it's the 7th. I made a video today and I said it was the 5th. Why would you listen to a guy that doesn't even know what day it is? All right. We're going to continue our discussion tonight about biochar. Biochar. It's a product that we make here at our farm. A lot of people make it on their farms, and it's a soil additive, and it's also an additive that you can put in your animals' feeds. And it does wonders. It does wonders for your animals. It does wonders for your soils too. And if you play it right, you can inoculate that biochar, and then you can feed it to your animals. They'll further inoculate it, and they will spread it into the soil for you, and they'll work it in for you. They'll do a good job. Little story about biochar. When I discovered it, I guess it was probably about 15 years ago. I read an article in Mother Earth News. That's where I started the wheels turning. And then a guy that I knew that was a big time businessman, always looking for the next thing to do. He got me to be the technical guy and to build a retort, and I did. And I tested it here at the farm, and it happened to be right around this time of the year, probably. Well, I think we had snow, so maybe it was a little. Well, we just had snow a couple days ago, so. But this is a true story. We made it, and I was down by the Clearspan building. For those of you who've been here, it's just like a Quonset hut type thing that we have. It's fabric covered, and we were down there, and we were using that area because it was a little bit covered to keep our tools in and conduct the tests on this brand new retort that we had built. And at one point, the Clearspan also, we were using it as a brooder. So there was a lot of chicks in there. There was two 10 by 12 chicken tractors in there that we had modified with a porta hut. And each one of them probably had 300 chickens in them. And they were just chicks. They were probably, I don't know, they probably 3 or 4 weeks old. So they weren't, brand new or anything, and they were out and they were running around. They could get in the porta hut, and that was sealed up. And I'm sure, and yeah, we had heat going in the porta hut, so they could get in, but they had to come outside to eat and get their water. That was how we used to do it back then. You're gonna have to excuse me. I still am fighting this cold. It's been a couple of days, so I may sneeze. I feel it coming on now, And anyway, I threw some biochar into these chickens, and you can throw anything in there, and they'll pick it up and run around with it. But they kept doing it, and they would not only run around with it, they would break a piece off, and then it would disappear, and then more and more and more. And so I threw another piece in, and it's, if you handle biochar for a little while, you realize, hey, it's kind of fun to handle it. And this is a biochar bone, right? Cow bone, rib bone. That look familiar? And anyway, the char that I was throwing in with them, it was just wood, biocharred wood. And we wound up throwing a bunch to them because they were acting so weird with it. And they ate it. And didn't really register at the time. But then a couple of weeks later, when we were moving them out to go out on the field, we noticed that the ones that were in this pen were like a lot bigger than the ones that were in this pen. And at that stage of the game, we had struggled a lot with what they call coccidiosis. Coccidiosis is a protozoa, and or coccidia is a protozoa, and if it gets out of balance in your chick, it can cause the protozoa to actually attack the chick. And what the protozoa should be doing is attacking the bacteria that is in the chick's gut biome, and there should be plenty of it in there. But when things get out of balance, that's what happens. So anyway, we made an assessment that, hey, the ones that had gotten the biochar were a lot bigger. And so then we tested it, because we grow chickens in chicken tractors that are groups of 75. So it was really easy to do a controlled experiment. And at the time, I was big buddies with the guys at the university, because I had more pastured poultry going at one time than anybody had ever seen in the state. And so they would come routinely, bring their little students with them and all this stuff. And I'm not really sure what their angle was, because they never promoted what we were doing. I think they just wanted to keep tabs on what I was doing. But anyway, I had the phone number of the top guy, and I called him and I said, hey, you're not going to believe this, but I think we've figured out the fix on coccidiosis. Because in the past, what you'd have to do is you'd have to give them this product called Corid. And it is a product that has what they call amprolium in it. That's the drug. Corid is the brand name. And as I showed you guys the other night, I looked it up. I'll look it up again just for fun. I don't remember exactly what the number was. But we were going through a lot of Corid just to keep our chickens alive. Corid. There it is. Okay, Corid, 9.6%. 1 gallon is $104.99. You see that? It's the second one. There it is, $104.99. So we were going through quite a few of those. I would say 6. And you put it in their water, and it brings the coccidiosis under control. The problem with that drug is you have to hold it for 2 weeks before you can process the animal. So here we are, supposed to be organic farmers, but we're using this product. And, under the organic guidelines, hey, you can. If you need to, you can do it. So we were doing it, but it wasn't good. And I didn't feel real good about it. Anyway, I called this guy up and I said, you're not going to believe this. I think we've discovered it. And he says, and I quote, well, make sure you have a backup plan. Keep plenty of Corid on hand. I got to go, Mark. I'll see you. And I never talked to him again after that. And I was really dumbfounded at that, because I was coming out of the service, and believe it or not, where I worked in maintenance, it was we were always looking for solutions to problems, maintenance problems. Excuse me. And I didn't know anything about tenure. I didn't know anything about peer review. I didn't know anything about chemical companies supporting universities so that the university will support the chemical. I didn't know anything of that. I had no idea. I was really green. And I thought maybe I wasn't tracking on this thing, but luckily I have a vet friend who's also Marine, and he kind of explained it to me. Very carefully explained it to me, how the whole thing works. So there are a lot of things like that, and biochar is a very pronounced thing like that. The antithesis to biochar is maybe amprolium, and somebody's making a pile of money, $104 for a gallon of stuff. And what did this cost to make? Not much. And then we're going to go over that tonight. We want to talk about how you build what's called a retort, how you do that, and then how you operate it. So before I do that, I'd like to talk about our sponsors tonight. Our sponsors are, again, Nomadic Media. That's Joe's outfit. He just put out a really nice video today on Biochar featuring yours truly. And our other sponsor is the Anyone Can Farm Experience. Okay, that's the program that we run, and we're working towards this, our schoolhouse build, so we can facilitate more students in our classes that come here. That's what we're working on. All right. Either way, it's going to work out because we've done fine without it for a while. We just like to be able to accommodate more people in a little bit more less austere conditions. But maybe that's the secret sauce is the austere conditions. Who knows? All right. So far, we've got Justin with us, Keith, Nancy, Vindicti, Gabby. Gabby's new, and Aaron. Aaron's coming at us from Texas. Gabby's new. All right. Well, great. Welcome. When you get a chance, tell us a little bit about yourself, like where you're from and all that stuff. It's kind of nice to know where you're coming from. Okay. All right. Let's knock out some nomenclature here. Okay. The overall unit that I'm going to talk about today, and I'm going to draw you a real rudimentary retort. The unit is called a retort. A retort, right? Okay, Matthew Angel's here with us too. He's hitting me up on my my messages. The retort is a device that can be either controlled or uncontrolled by a person, a controller. The ones that we build are uncontrolled, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that and why we do it that way, as opposed to, say, the one that Lone Star built. That was a controlled retort. All right, so you have to monitor that, sort of like a steam engine. We prefer the uncontrolled one for a reason, and I'll get into that. Canadian in Arkansas here. Ice House is from Canada. Aaron's Texas. Gabby hasn't really. Could this be Gabby Gifford? Maybe you don't know where you are. Oh, that was mean. Another term that you're going to hear is feedstock. Feedstock. Feedstock is the carbon-based material that we're going to actually turn into biochar. Okay, so our feedstock could be wood, it could be bone, could be straw, it could be paper, anything carbon-based. We've made biochar out of a lot of things. We've made it out of bread. A beaver one time. A neighbor ran over a beaver, and he stopped in here to tell my kids that there's a beaver down on the road. You guys can have it. And when my kids got it, at first they thought they wanted to skin it, but then it was a mess from getting run over. So they just, let's put it in the retort and see what happens. And sure enough, it became biochar. We've done dead chickens. We have a possum that's on the fence post down there that we're going to. Oh, excuse me. It might be a little bit more of that tonight. I'm not quite over this cold. So anything that is carbon-based can be turned into biochar. And the material that is going to go on the inside of the retort is feedstock. Then there's going to be other material that we're going to use as kindling wood. Kindling. like to kindle a fire. And that's probably going to be wood. I suppose you could use like a matchlight briquettes. I suppose that would work. But wood is really sufficient. It's probably the best way to go, I think. Okay, so my device here is not operational, so I'm going to have to just use this device and go to the whiteboard. But before I do, I'm going to get up and turn the light off so I do away with a bunch of the glare on here. Let's see if that helps. Stand by. How's that? Last time I did some writing on this board with these new pens. These are new. These are like ink pens. It actually came out pretty good. So if I do some drawing right around in this area, we should be able to see that pretty good. My device right here, it's either on or it's not, and tonight it's not, so I'm not going to be able to use that. Okay, so a very simple retort that we can talk about is called the 50-30. And I think you can find these online. I've never actually looked for them, but the 50-30 is a very common retort. Right now, you're using a 50-gallon barrel and a 30-gallon barrel. 30s, I can tell you, are kind of hard to find, but 15s are not. You can find 15-gallon barrels. Now, these barrels need to be steel, right? Plastic barrels won't work. So let me first draw up a 50-gallon barrel for you. And this is going to be a 50-gallon barrel. Ooh, I'm getting really good at drawing. You know how they have the little bumps? Wow, does that look good? I got to say that looks good. Okay, 50-gallon barrel with no top on it. And then here is the top. All right. This is solid down here. This is we haven't cut into the bottom of the barrel, and we have to have a top. You have to have a top. Let's first show you what that top is going to look like if you were looking straight down on it. We're going to have to make a hole in that top about 6 inches in diameter. Right? And then you're going to need a section of black stovepipe. Comes in 3-foot sections. You're only going to need one. Once you make this hole in the top, which you can make with an angle motor, an angle grinder, I'm sure people have seen that. Then you're going to put this piece of black pipe, black stove pipe, you're going to put it through there and cut it, and then put some screws in so it's held on there pretty good. Okay? You're going to cut it and fold it up. Does that make sense? Okay, so that's going to be secured on there. It doesn't have to be real secure. All this is going to be is it's going to create a draft, an upward draft. Okay? And then on your barrel, you're going to cut 2-inch holes. And on the bottom, you're going to want to make 4 of them. Okay? 2-inch holes. For each. I'm going to kind of do that so that you can take a screenshot of this and you can, kind of maybe go off this if you're going to fab one. Matt Angel was kind of concerned about that. Wanted me to send a blueprint. Sorry, pal. I don't have any blueprints. And then on the top, you're going to make 4 holes at 1.5 inches. Okay, you're only seeing 3 because there's one on the other side. Okay. Okay. Now, another term that I'm going to throw at you here is refractory. Refractory. And refractory is the product on here that you're going to have to work a little bit to get. I mean, you can find 50-gallon barrels any place if you look around. You may not have ever looked for them, so you wouldn't know how plentiful they are, but I did a little quick search on Marketplace because I wanted ones with a top on them. And, you do a quick search and found them right in Lake City. Boys went up and got like 6 of them. Okay. We did build one of these, but we built this for, there's a video book that Joe's creating, all right, that people can buy off of our website, to build this, right? A lot of people don't watch our show, and you guys get a little special stuff here, special sauce. Okay, but your refractory is something you're going to have to work a little bit for. And if you just do a search on it and then find someplace near you that has a 2-inch refractory blanket and you want it in 24 inches wide, right? And they're going to sell it to you in rolls of 15 feet. And you probably want to get it in as short a roll as you possibly can because you only need to go around here. So you want to girdle, make a girdle. You want to girdle the barrel just like that with refractory, all right? And of course, you're going to have a seam. And a seam, And once you put that around there, you're going to have to hold that on. And what we did is we just took duct tape and went around it and pulled it in as tight as we could. And then went around on the bottom and pulled that in. And it's just a temporary hold because then what you need to do is you need to get some roofing steel and cut the roofing steel in 24-inch sections. Right, so you have this roofing steel that you've cut, and usually roofing steel comes in 3-footers, 3-foot sections, and you cut it at 24 inches. Right? And then what you'll do is you'll cut another one and you add it and you connect it up. And you put self-tapping screws in here. Okay? And then you'll need 3 of them. You'll need 3 of them to go around this barrel. And once those are made, you go around here, you wrap it around, you hold it on there with a ratchet strap, one at the top, one at the bottom, and then you ratchet it in until it's on there really nice and tight, and then put screws through it so it holds it on. Okay? I hope that's clear. Okay, and this will be your outer retort. That's what this is called, is the outer retort. Now the inner retort. The inner retort is going to be a 30-gallon barrel. Which is smaller. Okay. It might even be a little bit taller than that. Let's just leave it there. You can straighten that out in your mind's eye. But this barrel is open on the bottom. It's totally open. So usually on the top is where the holes are. And the holes are called bung holes. B-U-N-G holes. And usually there's a big one and then there's a small one. So let's say you're looking at the top of this 30. This is a 50-gallon. This is a 30-gallon. But I'm gonna put 15 in there too. Because the other day we couldn't find a 30. We did some checking around. We could not find one, and we had to settle for a 15, which is half, right? But it still worked. If you're looking at the top of this, you're looking at a small bung hole and a big bung hole. That's the way they are. And you're going to cut just inside of those all the way around. And you're going to take this out. All right? And then we're going to take this barrel, once we've cut the top of it out, and we're going to flip it over. So we've got this hole here. All right? Clear as mud. And it's flipped over. So when we fill this with feedstock, and it's upright, then we can just wedge some wood across here on the inside to keep it from all dumping out when we turn it upside down. And I think you can figure that out. You don't want it to dump out, because once this is full of feedstock, and I'm going to talk about the dimensions of the feedstock in a minute, we're going to want to load it in here. And it's going to look, if we were able to look through here, it's going to look like this, sitting in there, okay? The inner retort is sitting inside the outer retort. So this is the inner retort, and it's sitting in here with the open side down, right? So this is solid up here. Let me see if there's any questions. Okay. Now the feedstock that we're going to want to put in here, we don't want those pieces of wood any bigger than about 2 inches. Okay. So if it's a block and it's 6 by 6, you're probably going to want to cut it down. If you don't cut it down, then you'll find out why you should have cut it down, because you'll pull your biochar out of there, and you'll have a block that is partially biocharred, and then it's just wood. And you can break all the biochar off of it, and then you're going to have a piece of wood that you're going to have to biochar again on your next burn. No problem. Good question. Barn Geek wants to know about the refractory. Refractory. Okay, so refractory is it's an insulation, but it can withstand extremely high heat, and it has a property about it that is a little different than the insulation that you have in your home, but somewhat similar. If you've ever been putting insulation in, right, which I have, and then you take a break, right, and you have a piece of insulation laying on the floor, some dog will come over and lay right down on it. Why is that? Because when they lay down on it, it feels really warm. because what the refractory does is it turns your heat right around and sends it right back at you. Right? The antithesis to refractory would be like a cold tile floor. When you step on, it sucks the heat right out of your foot. And that's why you feel that cold. But if you step on a rug, right, it insulates you from that tile floor and turns the heat back at you. So this refractory is going to catch any heat that is going this way, and it's going to turn it right back in. Okay. Now you're wondering, where's the heat coming from? Okay, here I go. Okay, this has got feedstock in it. This is full of feedstock. Matter of fact, you want to pack it as tight as you can without, like Inga said, well, what about newspapers? And you can biochar newspapers. However, when they're packed really tight, it doesn't work out so good. Like we've rolled them up and tied them. No, they won't go because there's got to be enough room, right? So if this is packed with 2-inch pieces of block, there's going to be a significant amount of space in there still, even though you've got them in there as tight as you can go. Justin Z, how do you place the open top drum upside down without a lid? Well, you remember I cut it like this. I cut just in between the bungs. So I've got enough space to push wood down in there. And then when you get it to where it's full, then you're going to want to put some pieces in and jam them across the top, right? So, you'll put them in straight, but then turn them and then kind of jam them so that when you turn this thing upside down, nothing will fall out. All right, maybe you'll have to use some sticks or the one that I built, the first one, I didn't think about that. And what I did was I wound up taking a piece of wire mesh and working it in there. And the one that we have now that we're using, the old number 5, and I'm going to draw that for you in a minute. We actually cut a piece of hog panel that'll fit down in there. And then we take some rods and go across the barrel and then across the other way. So we can turn that baby upside down and nothing comes out of it. All right. All right. So I've got my 30-gallon barrel inside here, upside down, solid on the top. Oh, this is cool. I got questions coming in here. Hey, no, you gotta Matthew, you got to ask the questions on here because that's for the benefit of other people on here too. Okay, how about that? So then you're going to add your kindling wood in here. Now you're going to drop it all the way down here. It's going to be dropping all the way down into here, and you're going to want to fill this up pretty good, right? All this kindling wood. And until you're all the way up to here. You've got the kindling wood down in here. And it can be sticks. It can be split wood. It needs to be fairly dry. The feedstock that you put in has got to be fairly dry. And I don't have a number for you right now. I just got a moisture meter the day before yesterday. Yesterday was the first day that we used it. And I checked the wood, and it was like 18%. And it was saying that that's about medium. But this is the firewood that I'm using. They're saying it's about medium, right? So we've got all this packed in. We've got all the kindling wood packed around it. Then we're going to start the fire right here. You can start it in one place, or you can start it in 2 places. You can start it one on either side. There was a time when we would start it all the way around. There's no need to do that. If you start it in one place, you can be assured it's going to spread. Okay, so now you've got a fire burning. It's taking off. Then you put the lid on. You put the lid on, and you're going to start to make a draft going up that flue. When you make that draft going up the flue, you're going to start to draw air into these bottom holes. You're going to be drawing air. That air is going to come up, and it's going to create combustion right in here, right in that area. And your fire is going to work its way down on both sides of around the barrel. Now the barrel is somewhat sealed on the bottom because it's sitting on the bottom of the outer retort. After the first time you burn this, there's going to be some ash down here, and it actually makes a pretty good seal. And that seal is imperative because we do not want any flame to get in here. If we have flame in there, the wood's going to burn up, and we'll take it out, and there'll be nothing but ash, right? Just gray ash. We want pure carbon to come out. Okay, we want this. We want nice looking carbon, right? You don't have a chat, Matthew, on here? Everybody else has got a chat. You don't have that? Well, if you don't have it, then I'll take your questions on here then. I don't want to be too hard-nosed of a guy. You can ask him on here then. That's all right. Okay. And now as this is burning down, the temperature, the heat is going to hit this refractory, and it's going to turn it in right at this barrel. And all that feedstock in the barrel is going to start to heat up. It's similar to if you had a chunk of beef in a Dutch oven, right? And you put it on top of a wood stove, or you could put it in the wood stove. Actually, you could put it in a campfire, right? And the beef in there is going to heat up, but it's not going to get flame touching it. It's just going to heat up. A lot of the water is going to come out of it, and it's going to cook it. So the feedstock that's in here is actually going to cook. And what happens when it starts to cook is it's going to release anything from that wood that is not carbon. It's going to what they call gas off. This is called pyrolysis, is what they call it. Okay. All right. And as it starts to gas off, the gas from inside this chamber, the inner chamber, is going to force its way out. Oh, that's not good. My pen just got excited. And then it's going to find it. This gas is flammable, and you have air coming in here being pulled in because of the draft, and this gas is going to be taken up through all this wood, this kindling wood, and then it's going to hit where this flame is, and it's going to light off. So not only are you going to have the heat from the kindling wood that's burning, now you've got the gas from the inner retort that's coming up alongside of here and lighting off. All right, I'll look at them in a minute. Let me fix this. All right, and there's a finite amount of wood in that inner chamber, and therefore there's a finite amount of wood gas that's going to come off of it. It comes off in stages. The first stuff that comes off doesn't seem to be too flammable, but then as it progresses, it gets increasingly more flammable. And it's not uncommon to see the barrel right here turn red. That'll turn red, and it'll turn red here, and you'll get a flame coming out the top of here. I did one the other night, and I actually posted it on the tribe, and it was a good 3 feet flame, and it was roaring pretty good, very hot, very red, orangey flame, a lot of heat. And number 5 was cherry red. It was heated up pretty good. Okay, so once this starts, that's it. You walk away. So once you've burned one of these one time and you know it's going to function, which if it's built this way, I believe it will function, then you can light it and walk away. Now, it has to be in an area where you're not going to light, the woods on fire, or, don't put it near your barn. Don't put it near your house. Make sure it's out away. I've never seen one of these things explode or anything like that. But they do create a lot of heat. So if you have tall grass there or something like that, you need to clear it back. Clear it back. And I would say the first couple times you burn it, you're probably going to want to stay with it. And the way we are right now, like I got one burning right now as we sit here, but the area where we're in burning, we've burned it there plenty of times, and we know what we're doing there. So probably not going to have a problem. Here's my third piece of roofing steel. Okay. Delta rib steel. It's good stuff. All right. Now, this is a light it and forget it. This is a walk away. So once it's lit, we just walk away from it. As soon as all the feedstock inside the barrel is gassed off, it shuts itself off because there's nothing else to burn, right? Okay, Barn Geek, I think I just answered that, but have you ever had pressure build up and lift the inner chamber off the bottom? No. I never have. Not that I would know, because if it does, I would not know it, unless it poof blew it out. But we've never had that happen. All right. I think that's all the person needs to know about that. I think, unless there's some questions here. Let's see what we got for questions. Okay, Andy's with us. Okay. Bryce is with us. Okay. The only question I have is, have you ever had pressure build up to lift the inner? No. All right. Tell us about disassembly after the burn, Justin. When it's complete, it will cool off really quickly. There's nothing else to happen. All you have to do on this one is take the top off, and the top is just sitting on there. It's just the gravity holding it on. It's just sitting there, if you believe in gravity. And so you'll take that off, and then you'll lift out the 30-gallon barrel, or the 15 or 30, whichever one you can find. A 30 would be better, but like I said, we had a hard time finding them the other day. Joe and I did. We built one of these the other day for Joe's video class that he's put together. And then you just lift it out. Chances are pretty good that the biochar is just going to, some of it will fall right inside of the 30, the 50. It'll be in there. And maybe if you want, you can tip the whole thing over and then slide the 30 out to prevent it from all spilling out on you. Maybe. But either way, it's you've got it. It's not going to go anywhere. You guys hear this? Okay. Matthew's got some questions. Okay. Can you use wood chips and the dungs were 4 and 6 inches? The dungs? 4 and 6 inches. Ask that one again. Wood chips, no, because they pack in way too tight. Now you can put some in, but they just pack down too tight, and it doesn't allow the gas away from them. I know a lot about this because we've experimented a lot with it. We've done a lot of burns. Today, I realized how much we have done this. Just this season, we ground a lot of biochar today. Right. I'll tell you a little bit about the next step is processing the biochar. I don't have any to show you right now. I probably could have because we got a lot of it, but I didn't bring any in. If you want to look at the video that I made today, I think it should be on the tribe, and you can see it there. Let's just check real quick. All
right, so
well,
it's
here it
on
is.
or about the 5th.
That's where I said it was the 5th, and it's not the 5th at all. Let me just look in the tribe and see if it was posted there. Okay, well, nothing's happening. I've got no signal. No, I can't see anything. Oh, there it is. No, it's way too slow. I can't really look at it. So what we needed to do today was we needed to get this stuff processed. So that means we have to get it ground down because we're still in pretty good sized chunks. And I have a feed grinder, and the feed grinder is designed to separate the dust from the particles that we've ground. And in grinding this biochar, it's very dry. So we were getting a dust cloud from it. And I realized, hey, in that dust cloud, there's a lot of material in there that we want. We don't want it to just be floating away. So we isolated the air pump away from the grinder today. We did that. And then we had to modify the bottom of the grinder to open it up. Yeah, got you. And we did that today. And then actually, when we were putting some of the biochar through, it was so dry that it was dusting really bad. So we got just a garden sprayer and put water in it. So in essence, we were inoculating the biochar with water, right? Now our water is well water, so it's very active water. It's not like the stuff that you wouldn't want to inoculate with water that you get out of town because they put fluoride in it and they put chlorine in it to kill everything. And so, yeah, you don't want that because that chlorine in the biochar would have a tendency to work against what you're trying to accomplish. Like, I suppose I could have gone down to the pond and got some of that nice green water out of the pond and inoculated it with that, that would be a good idea because there's a lot of life in that, right? All right, couple good questions. So the feeds Barn Geek says, okay, well, Justin, tell us about this assembly. I hope that was clear. And the Barn Geek is saying, so feedstock needs to be no thicker than 2 inches in one dimension. Yeah. So if you wanted these all to be, like a 15-gallon barrel is probably 36 inches high. If you wanted to split them all, or if you wanted to use limbs off a tree, and they were all about 2 inches, and you could just push them down in there, that would work. Limbs would work really good, like sticks off of a tree. Let's say we got a dead tree. Uh, um, Hardwood is a lot denser than softwood. Obviously, it's going to make better biochar because there's going to be more cross-sectional area in the biochar if you're using hardwood instead of softwood. Softwood has a tendency to kind of flash off too. You're going to have a lot more ash with softwood. If you use wood that is way too wet, and I think we're going to know at some point in our journey with biochar making. Now that I have a moisture meter, we've had on old number 5, the inner retort is a 50-gallon barrel, and we've had varying uh, char weights from 15 pounds up to 44 pounds, right? And then when we ground it today, the stuff that was 15 pounds was dusty, dusty. And then the stuff that was heavier, it sort of just went through, and it didn't make very much dust at all, but it made beautiful biochar. You looked at it and it was just gorgeous stuff. So I'm sure that there's a difference. I'm sure there's a difference, but that's what we found today. Okay, mythical moment. Sidebar. We purchased 5 megaliter pignets from you back in November. They are doing great. Haven't been on YouTube for a while. Good to see you still putting out content. All right. All right, great. Ice House. How do you store the biochar if you want to hold on to it for a week or two? That's really easy. You can even hold on to it over winter if you want to. Okay, so you would kind of say you would kind of use the same protocol that you would use for storing, let's say, compost, right? If you're going to store it over the winter, you want to put it outside because you want the life that's in that to go dormant, right? It's a like a compost pile. It just goes dormant. It gets cold and it just stops. But it's still there. As soon as the pile warms up, you'll start to see, when you come out in the morning, you start to see steam coming off of it. So all those little beings that are in there wake up. It's sort of like in The Wizard of Oz. What's the name of that place where they lived? Munchkinville. Is it Munchkinville? Munchkin Land. They all wake up. Wake up. Wake up wherever you are. So they start waking up. You're going to have bio life. Like if you were to buy biochar, there's 2 ways that you could get it. You could get biochar raw, and in that case, you would make your own inoculant to go on it. And you may want to do that because you might have some special use for your biochar that if it came inoculated from us, say you bought from us and we inoculated before we sent it, the benefit there is you'd be getting bio life from our biosphere that's different from yours. And you want that because you want a very diverse microbiological life in your biosphere, right? Your biosphere is sort of like, let's say that you have a dome over your homestead. You want as much life in that dome as possible, and you want it diversified, right? You don't want just, you know, corn or just soy. You want a lot of stuff. Not that corn is bad by itself, but you see a lot of these monoculture fields. It's just they kill everything except the corn, and the corn looks beautiful, but it's just corn. Oh boy. Okay. So let's say you got it inoculated from us. Let's say um, you said, "Well, I'm all done with using this bag," and we sell it in bags that have a Ziploc on them. And let's say you use half of it for some of your planting, or you feed it to your chickens or whatever, and you're probably going to want to buy about 10 bags though, Nancy. So you're down to your last bag and you're going to keep it over winter. You'd probably want to get a little bit more moisture in it, mix it up real good, and then leave it wherever you do your planting. And hopefully it gets cold enough that it will go dormant. If you did leave it in, the life that's in there would continue to grow. You would see, if you seal it up, you would see condensation on the inside of the bag. And then it would, the condensation doesn't leave the bag. So in a way, you're creating sort of a terrarium. And I would, if everything works out right, by the time spring comes around again, you would have more life in that biochar than you had when you got it. That makes sense, right? That sounds about right. Andy says he's got to build one. Got 8 acres to clear. You know what you might want to do too, Andy, is look into when we learned how to do biochar, the fellow that came out from New England Biochar to show it to us, he set up a burn outside of a retort, and it was just like this. And then he put wood across here, and then like that, and then wood across here. And he showed us a video of how they make charcoal for, I think it was Jack Daniels whiskey, right? Isn't it charcoal filtered or something? Who's got some Jack Daniels handy? Come on, Nancy. I know you got a bottle there. Does it say on there charcoal filtered? Is that Jack Daniels? I think it is. Well, anyway, this video showed how they make the charcoal that they use to filter this Jack Daniels. And they make these piles, and these piles are great piles. They're 6 feet high and 6 feet wide. And I think they use like hickory limbs, something like that. Not Jack, huh? You got the good stuff. You got the Fleischmann's. Or what's the other one? Dickel. Dickel is for drinking. And what they would do with this is they light it on top and then allow it to burn down. And then you have a spray array that keeps it from flashing off. So you're spraying it a little bit. So people have made biochar. I saw a guy at a music festival that was making it, and he just had a barrel. It was 275 gallon barrel, like an oil drum, and he had cut off 2/3 of the way up. And he was just putting feedstock in it and lighting it, letting it get good and hot, and then extinguishing it. And then he would pull out all of the stuff that was still wood, and then there'd be a bunch of biochar in the bottom, and then he'd dig that out with a shovel and put it in a pile. It was messy for sure, and it required that he be on it all the time. I mean, like with mine, the ones that I build, and I touched on this before. I don't want to have to monitor these. Like they're burning for 5 hours, 6 hours sometimes. I don't have time to sit there and babysit them. If I did, then we figure that it's 2 hours, 2 man-hours per burn, right? And if I wound up putting 5 hours per burn, it would be way too expensive, way too expensive. So even though we might be losing a little, and our char might wind up a little on the dry side, that's not bad because we can always plump it back up with inoculant on the other side. We may be losing a little bit more than we would if we stood there and we monitored it, had a temperature gauge on it, and we cut the air to it and brought the temp down to 1600 degrees and kept it right there. Ours are burning up around 2400, sustained flame, and I know that because about 2400 degrees Fahrenheit is when steel starts to turn. When it just starts turning orange, you're right about 2400 degrees. And it depends on the type of steel, of course, but ours are, and then ours get bright. So it's going between 24 and 28, right? But it does not become molten. So I know it's staying below 28. Must be, right? It's not becoming molten. Okay, I get this thing digging away. All right. No, that's not Matthew. Okay, so Matthew, you're going to have to ask questions on here, lad, if you don't see a place to ask them on the chat. I'm sorry about that. Okay. Top-down burns are fun campfires too. Right. Yeah. Once you do a top-down burn, it's like you never go back. They're a lot less smoky and a lot more interesting to watch. Okay, I burn big piles, hit with water, skater tractor buckets in livestock area, and they eat it, but not as efficient nor as good quality as a barrel from what I see. Yeah, for sure. A lot of times we'll get brush down in the yard. Storm will have all these trees and everything. On YouTube, yes, Matthew. It's on YouTube. The Anyone Can Farm Experience on YouTube. But you're watching me, so you must be there, right? But we'll take all those limbs and throw them in with the pigs. And usually what they will do is they'll gnaw the bark off of them, and so the things will really dry out. And then occasionally I'll just pile them all up in the middle of the field there and touch them off. And pigs, they'll wander into the flame, and then they'll get hot and they'll back out. But as soon as it's down, they will get right in there and start taking the charcoal and eating it. They really like to eat it. Okay. Okay. I was going to draw up a picture of number 5, but I really don't need to. When I started doing this, there was a man that was the expert on this, and he told us that you cannot scale up the 3050. He told us that. You can't do it, he said. And I just disagreed with him. I didn't say anything, but then I built the Triceratops, and that was number 4. That was the 4th one that we built, and it worked really good. So we were getting a lot of weight out of a burn on that one, but the inner retort on that was a 300-gallon barrel. The problem with that one was I didn't have enough lifting capacity to get it in there safely. That was the problem. So I didn't want to stay with that, and it burned so hot that the tanks couldn't take the burning. The number 5 right now is a very thick tank, and it's 1/4-inch steel, and the inner retort is a 50-gallon barrel. And if that burns out, that's okay, because that's sort of a consumable part. The outer is what you don't want to burn. So Joe suggested the other day that we figure out a way to limit the air going in. And I am okay with that, because I believe what we'll do is once it starts to gas off, we will be cutting the air to the retort. And then we'll be burning more gas, less air, and we will keep the temperature down. Because as this takes off and it gets the gas and it burns faster, it's sort of like a turbocharger. The faster you go, the more manifold pressure you get, and the more heat you get. And so that's what's happening with this. And we think that if we can limit the air to it, then we can keep the temperature down, still get biochar, not have as much heat, so we won't have as much of our feedstock burn up. We would like to have every ounce of feedstock that we put in there convert to biochar, but it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. You lose some. Yeah, you lose some. A few cautions. If you get a burn going with one of these, and let's say that you've got some flame on the inside of the retort. Okay, I'll answer that in a minute. And then you pull the inner retort out. You pull it out, and you expose it to the fresh air. That biochar can burn, and it burns quickly. It's not going to explode or anything like that. It's just going to kind of like the end of a punk. You're going to see it start to flare, and biochar is actually, if you needed to get some heat going in, let's say, an ice house or a deer blind, you could have a coffee can full of biochar and squirt a little accelerant on it, like alcohol, and light it off. And then it would just sit there and burn. Not flame burn, but just red. And it throws quite a bit of heat, but no smoke. And I mean no smoke, right? When I was stationed in Korea, they had this product they called Ondal. Don't know why they call it Ondal, but what it was, I used to walk by the factory where they made Ondal, and what they did was they ground coal. And from what I understand, it was really soft coal, real crummy coal, right? And the problem with real crummy coal is it's hard to keep it lit, right? Don't know why. I haven't burnt a lot of coal in my day. And they would grind this coal. They would add something to it. I don't know what, some sort of fluid. And then they would press it into cylinders. And when it came out, it was about, a foot high and about 8 inches in diameter. And it was a solid, like a briquette, but it had holes going down through it. And then they would take this and they had Ondal burners, right? They had several different designs. Some of them looked like small potbelly stoves, and they're still using them today. They've been using them forever, and they'll put that in there, put some sort of a accelerant on it, some sort of starting fluid, and they'll light it, and that thing will just burn there and burn down. And then when it burns down enough, they'll take another one and put it on top of it, and it burns down to ash, and then they're just scraping the ash out. They have another one that's more of a furnace type burner where they put the Ondal in it, and it's got an on-off little fan motor, and it's got a thermostat that calls for heat, and it turns the fan motor on and blows. And they duct the burnt gases throughout the floor of the residence. It's really wild. They have a duct that goes through there, and they blow it through, and then it vents. And so when you're walking around in Korea, especially in town, there's this really nice rotten egg smell everywhere, and kimchi. And you get used to it after a while. It's actually kind of nice. I miss it. But they caution you that if you are engaging in adult beverages and you fall asleep at somebody's house, you could wind up asphyxiated because of their Ondal system. I guess Koreans have leaky systems, and they wind up getting asphyxiated in their own homes. I don't know. That was what they cautioned you of. If you pass out over at somebody's house, there's a good chance that you may never wake up. I never did wake up. Have you tried not using refractory? I have not. However, I have a friend, haven't seen him in years, and I was at his house one time, and I'm not sure how genuine he was being with me, honestly. But it looked like he had a barrel, just a burn barrel, and he had wood in it, and he did a top-down burn in the barrel. And I picked pieces out of it, and it was perfect biochar. But I didn't see it. I didn't see it happen, and I don't think I quite understand how it happened. But it's something that I really need to try. That I really need to try it. All right. That's it. I got to get my beauty sleep. I'm not going to draw the all number 5. That'll take time, and I'm out of time now, so it's 9:15. Tomorrow night's going to be Open Line Friday. I would not mind talking about biochar tomorrow night. It is a hot topic in the homesteading world, and if it's sort of like, if you can master it, you can get yourself a system going where you're making biochar. It's a really nice sideline. It's good stuff. And like Aaron was saying last night, when people find out that you're manufacturing it, people want it. And they don't always have the time to create their own. So if you figure out how to make it and you can make it available to people, it could be a really good deal. Okay, Barn Geek's going for it. He built a gasifier, and I'm real interested in that. I made a video the other day, and a friend of mine from back east popped in as I'm making the video, and he knows me really well. And all of a sudden I said, "Yeah, you probably haven't heard about biochar," and then I said, "I wonder why," right? And it really makes sense. I mean, there's good products out there that it's pretty hard for the corporate geniuses to be able to, if they, let's say they put this out and people really started to realize how good it was. There's another point I got to hit. What would it do to Miracle Grow? What would it do to a lot of those products like that? The NPK products, what would it do to them, right? It might kind of put them out of business. And if like, let's say 3M starts making biochar, you're going to have some Amish people come along and say, we can do it cheaper, right? And they can, and I can, and then poor 3M is going to be out of business, or whoever, whether it's Dow or whoever, right? So that's why products like this, you really don't hear much about them. And that's sort of the reason why when I called my buddy Mick at the college and said, "Hey, I think I got a fix for coccidiosis," he didn't want to hear it. He didn't want to hear it because he's working towards tenure. He's working to a place as a professor where they can't kick him out, right? So if he promotes an alternative to this stuff that they sell for $104 a gallon, well, the guys that are making that are not going to fund the university, and the university board is going to be like, who irritated the cord people? Oh, that was you? Okay. We see where you're coming from, buddy. This is a business here. This isn't about doing things right. It's a business. Right? So that's what's going on. That's why you don't see biochar as pronounced as it should be. Quick story. When I lived in Japan, I was working a flight line in Japan, and I was working nights. And there'd be this curious smell, right? And amongst the GIs, there was a story that circulated that, oh, it's a factory over there. It's actually a crematorium over there, and they make charcoal out of dead bodies, and they feed it to the animals, right? So in Japan, you could buy meat off base, and it was very expensive, but you could, like chicken and a little bit of beef, a lot of pork. They grow a lot of pigs over there. And it fit, the story fit the mystique about living in the Far East. They're different. They do things differently than us. And so I even told it to new airmen coming in. Oh, that smell, that's the crematorium. They incinerate the dead Japanese, and then they feed it to their animals, believe it or not. And it's not true. But later on, after I was out of the military and I got into agriculture a little bit more and horticulture and stuff, I was learning about charcoal use and how in Japan they don't use a lot of the products that the companies around here sell to feed to animals that we feed to ourselves, and the genetically modified stuff and all that. But Japanese do routinely use charcoal or biochar as a feed supplement. Yep. And it all fit, when I was there. Like, why would they be making, like, you don't find any place around the United States where they make charcoal unless they're making it for barbecuing. Oh, by the way, I was over at Ebel's and they have charcoal on the shelf and they call it lump charcoal. And people have said, hey, can you use this? And you sure can. What you're going to see, though, is an incomplete burn in that lump charcoal. And they do that intentionally because you still want some of those distillates in the charcoal, so it has that smell, right? So let's say they're using mesquite. If it's completely biocharred, it would have no smell, probably no smell. But to have the mesquite smell, they're going to leave some in there, right? So that's why they do that. But yeah, you can use it. I saw it today, and it was about $1 a pound. About $1 a pound. So that's actually cheaper than we're going to be able to sell it for. But it's not inoculated and it's not complete biochar. It is just not completely burned. Right? So you don't use like anything that's got like a match light, or I don't even know about the crushed briquettes. Before I would do that, I would take that briquette and I would study it very closely, smell it, and try and determine if there's any sort of accelerant in there. I don't know. I really don't know. I don't know what they use to hold them together. I really don't know. But maybe, if you can find out, maybe that's a good cheap source of biochar. Match light, nah, don't use that. That's definitely got like some petroleum in it to help it get going. Okay. Keith says, thanks. Thanks for your info, Barn Geek. What's the problem? Money over what's good for us. Oh, that's the problem, Inga says. Yeah. Well, they're business people. I mean, they're going to do what they're going to do. They never said, we're going to provide you with the highest quality product. They never said that. They don't make that claim. And if they do, then they'll say, well, that's just marketing. We've got the best chicken this side of the Mississippi. That's just marketing, because you can't. How do you qualify it? The best chicken? How do you qualify it? It's just, yeah, right, Aaron. You're right on. Just buy it from Bakers and you won't have to worry. It should be hitting the website anytime soon. Another thing is go on over to the Anyone Can Farm Experience web page. So it'd be www.theanyonecanfarm.com, experience.com. And then it's a nice site. They've got it set up really good. And you can go to merchandise and you can get one of these. Of course, these are great. These are very expensive, but they're on sale this week only. It's just marketing. You lied to us. No, I was just marketing you. But then if you come here on Tribe Day, they're going to have the silent auction, and then my daughter-in-law's coffee cups will be available, debuting. They're serialized and everything, and you'll be able to get one. You'll be able to make a bid on it. But let me just warn you, it's going to be very, very expensive. I'll be driving the bidding. That is some bitter tea. Whew. All right. Open line tomorrow night, Friday. Let's go. All right. I'll see you guys tomorrow.